Alright, day 2 of this Tacoma rebuild journey. It's currently 5 in the morning. Sun's barely coming up right now. But I want to see if today, before maybe 9 o'clock or 8, I can have this almost done to take out. I don't really need to do that much, maybe. But I'll get started right now with trying to take off the radiator, which the radiator is held on by this bracket. Missing this bolt right here, but held on by this bracket that has 2 screws, one here and one at the bottom, which are accessed through here, through the grill, which I can probably reach it with an extension and a wobble. Same thing on this side. They're hidden in there. I don't know if I could see them through here, but they're somewhere up there, right there. That's where one of them are at. So I'm pretty sure they're 10 millimeters, so I'll get started right now. So this is how I got it right now, with an extension and the wobble right there hitting the bolt. So let's see if we can remove it. For the bottom ones, I'm still using the extension, but they're located right there, and I'm pretty sure this one is the same. Yeah, right there. And they weren't 10 millimeters. They're all 4 of them are 12. So yeah, there's that. So I'll get finished up here. So after removing the 4 bolts, the radiator should just pop out of place and just come up. And there you go. And now for the reservoir is just on their place. You just gotta lift it up. And there's another 2 things down, and we'll see what else we can do right now. We're gonna get started with the exhaust for now. Looks like we got some 10 millimeter bolts right here. Looks like there's 3 that we can see right now. We'll get started on these first, and then we'll move on to the exhaust manifold bolts. We got the cover off. It was 4, 2 nuts on each end, and then 2 bolts. This one stayed on because it's rusted. So we're gonna get started on the manifold now. Okay, just finished up here. It was 6 bolts in total. It was 4 on top and 2 at the bottom that are accessed through here and right under here, under this slot right here. And they're 14 millimeter nuts. So I'm gonna get started on disconnecting some of the wires already. I'll probably get started here and disconnect brackets, or if they're just clips, I'll disconnect them so we can get the harness and just put it on this side or wherever's easier. The connector for the AC clutch. I think this is for the oil pressure. Right next to the AC compressor, behind it. Connector for the distributor. And also right here, this bracket, just disconnect it right there. And above the upper coolant hose, there is a temperature sensor. And I think it got melted or broken, but we're gonna have to replace this connector when we put the engine back. These are broken, so there's nothing holding the harness from here. We could disconnect this. I think this is some sensor for vacuum, or I'm not really sure, so There's that, and we have to unbolt that ground bolt right there, so it's probably a 12mm. We're gonna get started on this side. This is just held on by that bracket right there. You just push it outwards. Get this ground right here. It's a 10mm. You can start off from here as well. Another sensor for vacuum. Connected to something for the gas. Pretty sure that's for the pressure. So we're gonna remove this also by that clip right here. Push it outwards. And then one of the injectors here, which is just pushed in through right here. We're gonna keep going forward to the other 3 injectors left. There. Alright, keep going. 2 more injectors left. There's 2 cables after the second injector going downwards. One is right there. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect that one as well. Another injector down, right over here. Just push it upwards with your finger and just slide it out. So one more injector down here. Let's see how we get to that one. There is another connector right in there. I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect that one as well. Disconnect this sensor that goes to the throttle body. Disconnect this one by pushing it in, and that just pops off. This is part of the sensor over here, so we're gonna tuck that right in there, but this is already out now. Got the last sensor disconnected by putting the back through the hand. So that's the last sensor for injectors. There is a sensor all the way in there, but I accidentally broke the wire to the connector, so we're gonna have to fix that later on. It looks like it's for maybe pressure for the filter, or maybe it's a knock sensor or something, so we'll fix that later on. So after pulling out the connector that was there, it goes through the compressor up here. You pull it from in that space, and then you can move the cable to the side like how I did here. Then after disconnecting the ground right there, the 12mm, we could set this aside here, and it has this little plastic bracket that holds the harness. It has a little clip on that side and on this side, so after that you can just pull it up and it's free, so when you take out the engine it doesn't yank on the harness. And then we have this cable up here as well. I'm just gonna leave it like this, and hopefully it's not in our way. We'll see how much else we do right now. I took off the bolt right here that holds the harness, and I put the bolt back just to remember that goes there. That's another one down. There's another bolt over here, same thing, another 10mm. Removed it and put it back just to know that goes there. I'm gonna get started on removing the power steering pump. To do that, you gotta remove these. So I'm gonna disconnect them and put them one on each other, so there's no dirt or it gets contaminated on either side. I'll show you guys how I do this. So leaving it like this, we already know that both of these go to power steering. This just goes back in here, so nothing gets in that hole or it's exposed. And then we just put it in this one as well, so the hole is not exposed. So let's get started on taking off the belt, because this has a manual tension. First, you gotta loosen the pulley. So there's a 14 millimeter right here. You gotta loosen it a little bit, maybe one full turn. That's mainly about it. You don't need to do much. Now, this is what holds and tightens the pulley. So that's probably another 14 millimeter. There's not a lot of room though, so I'll probably get a wrench. Doing this like that, just loosen it up until you can take it off the pulley. Now that we got the belt off, we're gonna access the two bolts through these holes on the pulley. After removing the bolts, all you gotta do now is just give it some back and forth motion, and it should just come out like this, easy. So you could just leave it. So time for the alternator. All we gotta do is disconnect this and that 10 millimeter bolt right there. After that, just disconnect the connector for the starter and a 12 millimeter bolt for the positive side of the starter. There is also ground right there that needs to be removed. That's on the chassis, or not the chassis, the body of the engine. You don't have to, but I removed the clip right here that holds it next to the engine mount, so I could just pull the whole cable outwards. I just need to release this other clip right here. Just like that. All the cables, I could just rest it over here. And I'll have more room to take off the bolts for the engine mount right there. I'm going to remove the pipe right there next to the exhaust that goes to the EGR. It's just two 12 nuts on there. I just ended up taking out the whole pipe out because it was easier towards the end. It has two bolts right here, right there, and right there. It's right there, and then towards the back of the engine, like around here, in that corner where the valve cover is, there's a bolt that holds it. That is also a 12. It's over there. I was able to do it with that little ratchet. So yeah, we are gonna get started right now. First off, we're gonna start with this bolt right here that holds the exhaust, so we can separate the manifold with the engine. So let's see how we get this out. Took off those two bolts for the bell housing. They're 17 millimeters. The long one is at the bottom, and the short one is the one on top. And the exhaust is now loose, so we're gonna see if we can take these other ones off. Right there and right there are two small bolts, these two, which are 14 millimeters, and then you have these two which have a nut on the opposite side. There's two different ones. There's a short one and a long one. The long one is the one that goes in this hole right here, and the short one goes over there. And once you take it off, this will come out, the cover for the bell housing at the bottom. So let's get started on the top bolts now. Just finished on the opposite side. I got those two bolts out, the top and the bottom. And for the top one, it's a 14 millimeter. For the bottom, it's a 17 millimeter. And just for reference, this is how they look. Now I think all that's left are just the top ones. And there's a starter bolt also, but that's through the top. So let's get started on those. The top bolt, I got access through up here. And that's specifically where it goes, right there. So just with a wrench or a quarter ratchet, I was able to do it. And now I'm gonna see if I can get those. I believe it's just 2 more that I need. This one and that one over there. So let's see, those are 17mm bolts. So let's see how long it takes to get those out. I removed the support for the intake manifold. All you gotta do is remove that bolt right there. I put it back. And this bolt right there, which I also put back again. It's that one. They're both 12mm. I'm gonna remove the gas line. That's a 17mm right there. And just be careful when taking them out because they do have copper washers on both sides, so they might fall out. We got that ready. I have the drain down there so the gas doesn't get on the grass, but we have removed it right here, so it's out of our way. We gotta remove this vacuum line and also this vacuum line that goes to the brake booster. So let's get that done. There we go. Both are removed and tucked away nicely for now. So now let's get more work done. I removed the bolt right there that holds the bracket for the power steering line. So just in case, so it can be out of the way, and I put the bolt back there. Finished getting out the 2 top bolts, the 17mm for the bell housing. So when doing the one closest to this side, it's better to do it on the passenger side, but the very top one, I found out that it was better to do it on the driver's side, and what I used was just this regular 3/8 ratchet with a flexible head. It's just no extension, just a regular 17mm. So I disconnected this heater hose right here, and I also disconnected this one, but the old plastic gave out and it broke, so we'll have to get a new one of these. Something for the heater, but yeah. Well, at least these are out and we can put them out of the way so they don't get caught on anything when we pull the engine out. And that should be it. All we're gonna do now is take these bolts off for the engine mounts. They're 17mm. Just take off each one on each side. I already loosened them. I just need to remove them now. And that's pretty much it. We're gonna see if we could take it out now. Right now, while tucking the heater hose, I noticed that there is another connector I forgot. It's right here. I removed it right now. Good thing I noticed right now before anything else. I'm removing the engine, or else it would get caught on that.